This episode, the thrilling conclusion to our meditations on the way of the cross. The Catholic Underground starts right now. You betcha. It is the Catholic Underground, and we are the podcast are we cutting through the noise? I feel like we are. Cutting through the noise of the digital continent and bringing you the topics that matter. It's episode number 443 for those of you keeping score at home. Mm-hmm. I'm Father Chris Decker, a priest of the Diocese of Baton Rouge. Joining me, we got Kathleen Lee. She's back.
I'm back.
She was on assignment last week.
With a vengeance.
Isn't it always the way?
I think that's always true. Yeah.
Also, Olivia's here. She has no beef against anyone.
No beef, no pork, none of that.
That's right. Well, especially in this week of weeks.
It's true.
Yeah. Olivia, thank you for being here. We've also got Jeff Blackwell up on the Jeff Star 1 near-Earth orbit satellite, merrily happening right now. Jeff Blackwell.
Hey, good to be here, Father.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. And then Ed Ball is in the ball pit. It's really not a sunken area of the Jeff Star.
It doesn't
I
matter.
I need to say that.
It's a metaphorical state of being.
There you go.
And you said it.
Oh,
yes.
Ed,
and Kathleen and I won.
Ed, do you like the fact that you are metaphorically consigned to a pit?
That's a yes.
What's that? I can hear you.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Affirmative, Captain.
I see.
Yeah,
he does like the idea of being in a pit. Well,
Yes.
I guess I can't argue with
Ed
that.
loves Kathleen and Olivia, so
Yeah.
he's a yes.
Well, Ed may be in the pit, but we are on the way to Calvary. If you joined us last week on the Catholic Underground in episode 442, we talked about the way of the cross, and we began with stations 1 through 7. So from Jesus' condemnation to death at the hands of Pilate, which, by the way, was a sham job. The whole thing was a sham. In fact, if you went to Mass for Palm Sunday today, you got a little hint of that, where the high priests are grilling Jesus, and they're grilling him while all these people are coming forward with false testimony.
Yeah.
They kind of incite them to bring up all these charges. He said that we heard him say that if you destroy this temple, he's going to raise it up in 3 days. And he did say that, but not the way they were saying. And they couldn't even get their testimonies to agree.
Yeah.
And so the thing that puts it over the edge is when the high priest says, well, are you the Son of the Blessed One? And he goes, I am.
Yeah.
He says the exact same thing that that God the Father says, and God the Son and God the Holy Spirit in the burning bush when Moses asks his name.
It makes me think of, especially as someone who works in the church, who works, for the church, who's a minister of the church, how many times I've been like, okay, this is what the church teaches and says. And somebody says, yeah, but you said that this. And I'm like, that's not what I said.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
That's not what I said at all. But I said this, I can't imagine, I mean, I can because I feel it normally, regularly. Like Jesus just sitting there being like, what the heck? Like
he even says that in so many words. I was in the temple every day teaching, and you didn't lay a hand on me then. So why are you laying a hand on me now?
I was actually just commiserating with another teacher about this, and it's ironic because like the chapter I just finished with my freshman is on Jesus as a teacher, and so we looked at like Jesus as rabbi and like how he teaches and like teaching techniques that he uses and all that stuff. And I was telling another teacher who's like a veteran, something that one of my students told me, which was like, it must be fun, like giving kids Fs on tests.
Ooh.
what?
And I looked, I was like, first of all, I don't really give that many.
Sure.
Also, no, it's not. Because it's like watching something that you built for 3 weeks be burned to the ground.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
In one exam.
Yeah, and you can imagine like what Jesus felt, obviously like on a much more like fantastical grand scale.
Sure,
This is
like,
from the beginning of creation.
like he's truth himself being lambasted and being blasphemed against. And
accused of blasphemy.
And being accused of blasphemy, and being lied about. Like he knows what is the truth because he is the truth. It exists in him. It emanates from him, and yet he's standing there taking it. You know. So the just absolute humility that you see coming to bear in Jesus, really, I don't know. There's no parallel to it. There's no, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's astounding.
And that's the thing. And so we have followed Jesus from that moment where he is condemned by Pilate all the way up to where Veronica wipes his face. And we talked last week about how in the wiping of his face with that cloth, that it's a reminder that Jesus never really walked alone, even though he was walking a lonely road, you know. And she is restoring something of the dignity of the face of the Son of God, you know. And the Psalms are always asking, Lord, let me seek your face. It's your face, O Lord, that I seek. And so the gift to her and to us is that true image, the Veronica, was made upon that cloth for her to see, and for us to see as well, that the divine image can't be blotted out.
Right.
You know? And so that's where we find ourselves this week as we make the way of the cross by moving to Station 8. And that is where Jesus meets the women of Jerusalem. This one's pretty curious, you know, that again, Jesus is not walking by himself on the way of the cross. He's walking a lonely road, but he's not walking by himself. And so he moves from encountering his mom, encountering Simon of Cyrene, who's pulled in to help him, and then his life is changed forever. Meeting Veronica, and now the women of Jerusalem. And they're weeping and crying over him, but Jesus, in a sense, doesn't receive their tears.
Right.
He says, no, don't weep for me, weep for yourselves and for your children. And so it's hard to imagine for us that, I mean, we've already talked about how Jesus fell the first time. We're going to get to his second fall here shortly. And yet he never stops having compassion. Like, I don't know about you, but whenever I've had a medical procedure done, like when I fractured a rib a couple of months ago, in the roof of the Catholic radio station, or in the ceiling, I should say, attic. That's where that is, and fell through the ceiling. But whenever I was in pain, I didn't feel like having compassion on anybody. I didn't. You know, poor Ed was there with me. I hope I was compassionate towards you. But like for the time that I was recovering, I didn't feel like having compassion on anybody because I was in pain. You know, and whenever most of us we go into that protection bear, mode. But Jesus empties himself out to them. He consoles them.
Right. Yeah. I definitely feel that feeling of like when I've been wronged or when I've been hurt or when I'm physically in pain or sick, it's about me. You know, and there's definitely an opportunity for us to reflect on, do we, in the midst of everything that's going on in our lives, because we are a very me-centered society, a very me-centered culture, like in the midst of our own suffering, that, you know, what do we do with that? Do we post it on, you know, Instagram for everyone to see and for everyone to ask about, and, you know, or do we bear that cross while at the same time looking for other people who can't carry their cross as well?
And honestly, if you look at the saints, one of the great gifts that they give to the church after the person of Jesus here is in their own suffering, they enter into the suffering of others and lift them up. You know, I think about like Padre Pio would be a good example of someone. He received the stigmata, and that wasn't painless.
Right.
He experienced the pain of the wounds of Jesus, but through that pain, he was able to identify with the same Christ who somehow manages to console the women of Jerusalem, who are trying to console him. You know. And a great power comes from sharing that suffering.
Can you imagine too, like the sweetness? Like, I don't know. I'm kind of imagining like there's like sweet, I don't want to say pity, but something like that, that Jesus must have felt for the women of Jerusalem, because they're like trying to console God, you know? But that's all they can offer, you know, is just their tears, and that God accepts those with love and he cherishes them. But that is a genuine gift that they can offer and that we can offer, but especially women, right? Like, I mean, we've talked about that before on the show, and we can talk ad nauseum about that. But that's a special gift that women can offer. You know, Edith Stein is a testament to that, you know, woman is fashioned as a shelter in which other souls may unfold. So just by being there, I think Veronica is a testament to that. Like you were saying, Father, Mary's a testament to that. Like, look at all the women who are present on Jesus' way to the cross. John is the only of his disciples, the only, you know, man among his disciples who's present. Right. But there are throngs of women. And I think that there's something there in the fact that there's a desire there to share that suffering, right? To bear inside of themselves that suffering, even if it's just being there, even if it's just looking him in the eye and saying, I wish I could take it from you. I would crack my chest open and put it inside of me if I could. And that does something for people, you know. Alice von Hildebrand, I know I've talked about this book, The Art of Living, that her and her husband kind of co-write, Dietrich von Hildebrand, but she has an essay in there on communion, and she talks about how real communion is not like this. She talks about it like metaphysical fusion. It's not like you just lose yourself in another person and you just become like this mixture of like you and another person, but like you maintain your wholeness and the other person maintains their wholeness. But the way that you offer yourself to the other person and they offer themselves to you in vulnerability, but also in gift, right?
Mutual trust of the other.
Mutual trust, but with that risk that gift might be rejected, it might be used, right?
Or misused, right?
Misused, right? But it might be completely accepted too, right? And so you have to be seen and known completely as you are, even in your brokenness, even in your hurt and your bloodiness, your bruisedness. That is like where real communion takes place. And so that's what's happening, right?
That's right.
When Jesus is meeting these women, that's communion that's taking place.
And it takes place because of suffering. And the other question we could ask is, how can God be so concerned with our weakness? We're human. He's God, you know? And yet as we contemplate the sufferings of Jesus, we see one of the reasons that he's consoling the women of Jerusalem is because he's concerned, moreover, not just with our physical weakness and our emotional weakness, but he's concerned with the seriousness of sin and how it must be fully atoned. If it's going to truly be overcome, if the sacrifice is going to be consummated. And so Jesus really enters into that suffering on their behalf. He say, women of Jerusalem, weep not so much for me, but weep for yourselves and weep for your children. And if you're weeping, as the scripture says, when the wood is green, what will happen when it is dry? And Jesus is making it very clear that by me going to the cross for you, by me carrying this cross, going to it, dying on it, and preparing to rise for you, you won't end as dry wood. We won't end as just these brittle, broken bones, but we're going to be living branches because on the cross, we are grafted to the true vine that is Jesus Christ. And so in that moment of mutual consolation, because we can console the heart of Jesus, that's one of the things we're called to do. When we suffer, we're called to console the heart of Jesus because we, in a mysterious way, can do that. St. Paul says we make up for ourselves in our own flesh what is lacking in the sufferings of Christ. And so what could that mean except that we have the ability even now to console the heart of Christ as he continues to pour out his mercy and even in the best sense of the word, his pity upon the world, that we would turn back to him and live. He wants to make us living branches. You know, he wants that of us. We just have to be willing, like the women of Jerusalem, to go after him, to follow after him. And as you said, Olivia, like I want to bear some of this with you. You know?
Yeah, one of the greatest things I ever heard about like the Stations of the Cross was from Dr. Brant Petrie. I think I've said this before, but he said, look, and he talked a lot about suffering and how we don't like to suffer. And, you know, especially in modern day, we take a lot of measures not to suffer. He said, but Christ didn't walk the way of the cross so that we could stand at the end and go, good job, Jesus.
Right, yeah.
But he walked away
with the cross,
so that we could walk with him, even now, you know, and walk and then unite ourselves to the suffering on the cross. You know, and so that's what I love about you know this station and when Jesus, all the other characters, because Jesus is the main character of this event. Right, but there are so many other people that walked with him. Yeah,
and really, they're not really supporting cast members. Right. You know, they are essential to this work of salvation because again, Jesus didn't go to the cross in a vacuum.
Right,
Jesus goes to the cross precisely because of all of these people along the way. You know, I mean, again, if you think of Simon who was dragged in and conscripted, and yet he went away, a disciple. So much so that his sons, Alexander and Rufus, were leaders in the Christian community. That's why they're mentioned there, because Mark in his gospel assumes you know who they are. And we know that Rufus was one of the leading Christians. Alexander was one of the leading Christians in Rome. So that's the beauty of how Christ works, but how we're called to work as well, is that, as Mother Teresa said, now Saint Mother Teresa, whenever somebody comes into your presence, never let them leave without first having been made better by your presence. I'm paraphrasing there, but that's the long and the short of it, the essentials. The ninth station is where Jesus falls again. He falls a third time? Yes, he falls a third time. We've already gone through 2 falls of our Lord. It's hard to imagine, but this third time he falls, and we really, Jesus was helped by Simon. So he got maybe a little bit more of a wind back, if he had any left in his lungs, and he fell again.
Yeah. When I'm looking at even the images that we're projecting, on the screen, if you're watching on anything that you're watching, and if you go into the churches, there's these beautiful stations of the cross, and it portrays Jesus as oftentimes as still what I like to call flowy haired Jesus. Yeah. It's just like, oh no, oopsie.
Yeah, it's kind of a cleaned up.
Yeah, and last week y'all were talking about, about the actual cross, like the talking about maybe he just carried the cross beam, or no, he carried the whole thing, and like when he fell, you're talking about a guy who has no protection. You're looking at this. If you're looking at this image, he's got a full robe on.
Yeah,
dude had nothing on, like nothing. Yeah. He didn't have didn't have steel toed boots that he's walking down and it is a desert.
Yeah.
So it's like, go out in the gravel concrete. Take your shoes off in the midday sun
in Louisiana. That's a thing.
Yeah, in Louisiana, and then put a couple 100 pounds on your back.
Yeah. When you've already been beaten and scourged.
Yeah, when you're trying to carry this with just your back is shredded, and there's this crown of thorns on your head, and like people are pushing and spitting, and like it's not and then he fell the third time.
No.
It's catastrophic.
It's collapsed.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's Jesus saying the suffering is almost more than I can bear in my humanity.
Yeah.
Well,
I was really struck today by the reading, from Mark's gospel, when it says that, Joseph of Arimathea goes back to Pilate to ask for the body of Jesus. And it says, like, Pilate was amazed that he was already dead. Yeah. Because it was supposed to be like a torturous death.
Yeah,
it was supposed to take a very long time.
They drag it out.
And Jesus died relatively quickly on the cross. And there was a reason for that, because he was very brutally tortured beforehand and during the walk to Calvary. Yeah. And so it wasn't like he just kind of called it quits, gave up his spirit and said, I'm done. His physicality gave out.
Yeah.
Like the God-man's physicality gave out. And I know I mentioned this last week, but Bridget of Sweden, she had a vision, private revelation of the number of wounds that Christ's body endured, and it was 5,480. So his body was like ground meat.
Yeah, it was pulverized quite literally.
Not to paint too brutal of a picture, but when he falls, like maybe we kind of get to the third fall and we're like, oh, okay, another one of these. Yeah. Right. Like we've already meditated on this. Yeah. Move on. But you can imagine, and especially thinking about what's coming next, right? Because now he's getting to the end of his walk, his journey up the hill to Calvary. And think about this too, like the terrain is not flat. Yeah. He's going up a hill to the kind of the highest point outside the city. Because they couldn't kill him inside the city. He's got to go outside. So he's going up a hill, and this is like the last time he falls, and it's the last quote unquote rest that he's going to get under the weight of this cross before they're going to strip him and nail him to the cross. And so this is it, right?
I would have been like, I'm just gonna lay here for a little while. Yeah, y'all carry on. Yeah, right. I would not have and I think what's most important about this, to me, what I take from it is not that he fell, and everything that comes along with that, but that he got back up.
Yeah.
that he in his physicality, in his humanness, in his humanity, right? He was like, I got stuff to do.
Yeah. It reminds me of St. Paul's letter to the Corinthians, his first letter, chapter 10, verse 13. He says, no testing has overtaken you that is not common to everyone. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tested beyond your strength. But with the testing, he will also provide the way out so that you may be able to endure it. And this is what Paul is telling us about ourselves, but in a sense, it's a meditation upon Christ's resilience. As you say, I got stuff to do, right? There's a mission that will be completed. Yeah. And I think in that third fall, we're invited to reflect on the times that I fall not just 3 times, over the course of a week or the course of a day sometimes, but I am invited, like the Lord, to cry out to God, to cry out to God, who does not allow me to be tempted and tested beyond my strength. Right. And that is the proper understanding of how we work within suffering. Yeah. Is that there's not a one of us that can be divorced from suffering. Yeah. It's a part of our fallen human condition. But Christ, who was not fallen, was able to suffer the effects of a fallen world, right? Yeah. In suffering this third fall, but still at the same time, completely bereft of strength, gets up. Yeah. And we're called to do the same.
And when you think about it, I love what you're saying too about Kathleen, about like he's doing this for like love of us, right? Yeah, so when you think about it, like he falls because of the weight of our sin, so it's like the metaphysical weight of like every single individual sin, but also just like the power of evil, right? Yeah. But he gets up for the love of us, right? For the love of you. And that's something that like, that's a hard pill to swallow. Yeah. That like, and I remember, I was trying to drill this into my students this week about something, I don't remember, but that Jesus hangs on the cross for you, individually for you. If you were the only person on this planet, and you were the only person who ever had been and ever would be, Jesus still would have come and he would have hung on that cross for you. Mm-hmm. And so we can't lose ourselves in some kind of mental crowd, that like, Jesus came for us, he died for us. Yes, he did, but he came for you. Yeah. And he gets up for you.
And he would have gone for you.
Yeah. And I talk about this, I talked about this with a group of young people that I was doing a retreat for the other day. I often put the comma but. I call it the comma but. Like, Christ died for you, comma, but you, Kathleen, not you, right? Mm-hmm. And like that's a hard thing for me to think about is that you always say this when Christ, or you always hear this, when Christ was dying on the cross, he was thinking of you, and I'm like, comma, but Kathleen, and that's a hard thing for me to.
We don't expect the Lord to be so personal, do we?
So like when he got up for you, comma. You, Kathleen, that has been my prayer for the last several years, is to feel that, you know what I mean? To enter into.
And it's interesting that you talk about how Jesus essentially is kind of ennobling us as persons whenever he says, I'm getting up and I'm continuing on for you, Kathleen, for you, Olivia, for you, Christopher, because he calls me with my Christian name. And so whenever we get to the 10th station where Jesus is stripped of his garments, clothing, right, gives you your social position, right? When everybody sees me dressed weird in the supermarket, right, with this white thing around my neck, it doesn't just give me 30 days of flea and tick prevention. Yeah. But we're sorry, Jeff, didn't mean to make you spit take that.
Okay.
But yeah, it kind of gives you your social position where people kind of know where you are. But Jesus's clothing are gone. They are stripped from him. And Jesus being completely stripped publicly means that he is no longer anything at all in the eyes of the world. Yeah. He is now an outcast. He is able to be despised. Everybody can look at this man, behold this man, and say, yep, he's just a bunch of pulverized meat. Look what they've done to him. And now even the clothing he has, perhaps the remnants of the purple cloth that, is gone. Yeah. And yet he endures that too.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is just coming to form in my brain, but like, even though it was an opportunity for them to just say he's just a man, for him to witness to that, I am not just a man, but I am
the new Adam.
I am man. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
I'll have to pray on that this week. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like that's a beautiful thing, and you know.
And in a sense, he's ennobling human dignity all the more by allowing himself to be stripped.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. When you think about too how like in all art essentially since the Middle Ages, you look at images of the crucifix, images of any kind of image of Christ, and Mary and the saints. Mary's always been clothed, but the saints and stuff since the Middle Ages, anytime you'd see Christ depicted on the cross, especially traditionally he was always clothed. Depicted naked.
Traditionally, right? Yes. Traditionally,
before like the Middle Ages, but then like they started to wonder, well, is that prudent? Is that respectful, reverent enough? And so they started to clothe him. That's why you see Christ kind of like with this loincloth, around him.
But that's not accurate. That's not historically accurate.
No. And you're right that like he is doing a return to Adam, right? A return to the garden. And even like at Calvary, in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, you look up at the cross that marks the spot where Christ died, and you go like down the little stairs beneath it, and they have like this window in this rock, and traditionally that is where some of the church fathers believed like where Adam and Eve were buried.
Oh yes.
And so like the blood of Christ spilled onto like the skulls of Adam and Eve
first.
Yeah.
Wow.
And yet we see in being stripped of all the comforts of the world that Jesus wants us, in a sense, to be naked before him, right? There's no gray area here, and whenever we come to the Lord, like when you go into the confessional, the best thing that we can do is come to him unclothed, right? And at the level of our heart. Please wear clothes into the confessional. Please. But without a doubt, we see the unselfishness of himself, and so we're called to do that, right?
Yeah.
That it's we who spit upon him. It's we who strip him of his clothing whenever we sin. And yet we ask him to help strip our souls of the bad habits that we form, right? To strip our souls of those things that keep us from his love. Not him from loving us, but keep us from his love. We hope that we won't keep you, but we'll be back on the other side of the break. It's the Catholic Underground. Stay right there. Hail, Holy Queen, Mother of Mercy, our life, our sweetness, and our hope. To thee do we cry, poor banished children of Eve. To thee do we send up our sighs, mourning and weeping in this valley of tears. Turn then, most gracious Advocate, thine eyes of mercy towards us, and after this our exile, show unto us the blessed fruit of thy womb, Jesus. O clement, O loving, O sweet Virgin Mary. That's right, ladies and germs. You have found the Catholic Underground. We are somehow still podcasting on all frequencies at CatholicUnderground.tv and your podcasting zone of choice.
Yep.
I'm Father Chris Decker, joined by Kathleen Lee, by Olivia Gulino, up on the Jeff Star one, Jeff Blackwell, of that now you know how the satellite is named. And Ed is also there, who's running the video for us. So if you're listening on the radio, if you're listening on the podcast,
where's Ed?
If you're listening in any pits that you might know of,
if you're listening from a pit, Ed is probably running the video for it. Oh my!
Oh, when it rhymed too, that was worth it.
Yeah, there's at the end of Saint Alphonsus' way of the cross, Saint Alphonsus Liguori, which probably is one of the best ways of the cross, if I may be so bold. His reflections are fantastic, but there's a rhyme at the end, how they translate it into English, and I can't remember it, but it's It's something, and it rhymes with amends and firm resolve to make amends. Oh, for like all my sins and firm resolve to make amends. And I keep trying to figure out a way to alter the rhyme scheme so it doesn't rhyme, but I can't, because that's the only thing in the entire prayer that rhymes, and it drives me crazy. The Missal does that sometimes too. The 2011 translation, there are things that are rendered into the English that rhyme. You're like, I don't feel like I should be rhyming right now, but
only you would that bother.
Maybe so.
Father.
Oh, a rim shot.
Oh, this is fun.
That was totally an accident, but I took advantage of it.
Yeah. Luckily, it's an imperfect rhyme. All right, so we've been talking about the way of the cross, and we ended before the break with the 10th station, Jesus being stripped of his garments. For us, really, these are all. Right. That's the other thing too. Is all of these actions are not just the happenstance of what happens when you're crucified, when you have to undergo crucifixion, but these were definitively allowed by God. These moments were allowed by God, so that now, even something so gruesome as the Roman capital punishment in its penal system can become sources for us of ennobling. Yeah. Right? Even that. Like now, if you think about it, like in the first century, if you wore a cross around your neck as a piece of jewelry, you would have been thought mad, crazy, and a bit morbid. Now we wear crosses around our necks as a sign of victory. Yeah. Right? Of Christ having finally the last word on death. Yeah. And so even all these actions taking place, these 14 stations, are symbols for us now that have been pumped full of meaning.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I love the idea that there are things that we as Catholics, as Christians even, have become really numb to. Like, okay, Stations of the Cross, more you there, okay, moving on, right? And then we have, somebody puts on, some kind of reenactment, and it's so great, and we're like, okay, happy Holy Week, and we become numb to the reality of what it actually is, what actually happened, and and what it means. Yeah. So when we dress it up as something where we're like, oh, this flowy hair Jesus, then we lose that the impact of it. Yeah. And I love, like, when we get down to the last ones, there's a book that I haven't read called A Doctor at Calvary.
Oh, yes, that's a fantastic book.
I haven't read it. I have it in my possession, and maybe I'll read it.
So it's the medical account,
but it's the actual,
of the suffering.
what happened. And so when you think about, I just love that. For me, I have to be impacted in that way. Like, I have to know the reality of it, so that of what actually happened, so that I can then contemplate the reality of what it means. Yeah.
There's a this is coming from the personal private chat from my friend Haley, who's watching the show. But there's a free ebook on the Word on Fire website called The Sign of the Cross, Recovering the Power of the Ancient Prayer. Speaking of something that we do every day, probably multiple times a day, and is probably one of the things that we can gloss over the most and completely forget about. So if you're looking for a way to like enter into Holy Week. But yeah, I was thinking while you were talking, Kathleen, about like whenever I'm teaching, especially when I'm teaching about things that like my students might already assume that they know about. I don't know if you find this like particularly difficult, because like you can like see it on their faces, like the checkout moment, like, oh, okay, I got this. I know this one. Yeah. Totally familiar. And I like, one of the things that I love about theology and scripture and in particular is that it's inexhaustible. Yeah. I will never plumb the depths.
Right. Yeah.
Nope. You can try. Yeah. And you should try.
Yeah. And I will continue to. But even like I was talking to my seniors about Genesis 1-3. We spent 2 weeks on it, on 3 chapters of the Bible. And I can tell at one point they were just like, are we really like, we haven't moved on? Why are we doing this? And I, at one point, like started tearing up, because I was just like, this is so beautiful and it's so rich. Yeah. Do you see the beauty of our creation that's hidden in here, and we could have missed it? Yeah. And I think they looked at me a little bit like I was crazy, but I was just like, if you think, if that's what it takes to like make you look at it. That's fine. Look at me like I'm crazy. But I don't know. There is something about, I don't know. I don't really know where I'm going with this, but there is something about like, we need those things in our daily lives, whether it's like a crazy teacher or just someone or something that's going to like slap us to, whether it's like a phrase, doing Lectio, getting ourselves in like some kind of routine that's going to wake us up to like the power, especially of the scriptures. Because I mean, even like I was saying earlier, like I've heard the Passion reading in Mark. I read it 2 weeks ago with my students. I didn't notice that line from Pilate, but it stuck with me today. Right. And there's a reason for that. So, and
it may very well become an antiphon for you as you make your way through Holy Week. That's the beauty of it.
Exactly. So these things aren't accidents, right? The Holy Spirit is real and he's coming.
And then the 11th station, if you can imagine, Jesus is nailed to the cross. So the same creatures that he created, us, we nailed him to the cross. Our God, we made him stretch out his hands, and we did not believe that he was who he said he is. And we nailed him to the cross.
Yeah, you know, and one of the things, this is, you know, a little warning, I guess. It may get a little squeamish, some people. But like, you know, even in the way that they, you know, when I was learning about the crucifixion in a deeper way when I was in college, you know, even the little things that we don't notice on the crucifix, like, you know, why was there a little place for his feet? That's not just decoration, right? The fact that when Christ was crucified, the way that they would do that was they would crucify you and then put your feet on that little pedestal so that then you could pull and push yourself up to breathe, to expand your lungs and breathe.
So the nails become part of the fulcrum that allows you to
only to prolong the process.
And this and like
it was to keep you alive longer.
And I'll talk about in a minute what happens, you know, after he dies. But like even that stuff, like people that I talk to about this, you know, I'm like, do you realize, like, this is
yes, it was intended to be gruesome. Right? There was no other way around it. And if you think about it, we talk about this sometime on the show when we speak about how whenever we do not have God to worship, we always worship ourselves. And when we worship ourselves as God, and we think that we are God, the only way that we can attempt to create something in our image is by destroying it first. Right? That's what we do, right? We can't create out of nothing, so we create a nothing out of stuff. That we then try to remake in our own image. And that's essentially what humanity was trying to do here. Trying to kill God so that we could remake something in our own image that we could control. You know, by nailing Jesus to the cross, we are attempting to fashion a golden calf that is ourselves. Isn't that something? I mean, and we do that whenever we sin, and this is it writ large. When I sin, I mean, you've heard it in its kind of pious thought, but it's true. When I sin, it is I am driving the nail. I'm crucifying the Lord.
And you know what I realized too that I never realized before? So Barabbas, right? The one that they released instead of
the son of the father.
The son of the father. Yeah, the Barabbas in Hebrew.
He was a revolutionary. Why? Because he was trying to be a messianic figure.
And his name literally means the son of the father. And I when I realized that, like my head like shot up and I got like a little shiver down my spine. Because I mean, think about Second Corinthians 11:14 or something about like how even Satan can like shield himself or manifest himself as an angel of light, right? And so there will even be these figures that like pretend to be something that they're not, whereas like the truth can be right in front of us and we don't see it.
That's right, exactly. And so Jesus is nailed, you know, bound hand and foot, nailed to the cross, the unblemished lamb, now being struck, right? Now being sacrificed, actively sacrificed upon the cross, and yet he willingly did so for us, and he willingly goes to the cross for us because he knows that he has to be sacrificed in every possible way. Because he is the Lamb. He is the Lamb of God.
He's Isaac.
He is Isaac. You know, one of the things that I thought was really interesting was whenever the priests of the temple would go up to the temple to offer the sacrifice, the first priest of the day would have to go up, and the altar of sacrifice in the temple was this huge, like 12 by 20 cube. Like there was this big stairwell up to it and everything. And to get up to the top to light the torches around the altar, the high priest would have to take a beam of wood on his shoulders and go up the steps to light even the priests in the Old Testament recognized that whenever they were going up to offer this sacrifice of atonement for sins, they were prefiguring or postfiguring Isaac. And so Jesus, as he goes to the altar of the cross, the throne of the cross, and he is carrying the wood for the sacrifice, he knows exactly what he's doing, and he willfully does it, even knowing the pain. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it is kind of mind-blowing to see all the different ways in which Christ's definitive, intentional actions through the way of the cross are fulfilling the Old Testament and setting up this new covenant in his blood. And then, of course, that moves us to the 12th station, which we usually pause at for a little bit if you make the way of the cross. The 12th station is Jesus dies on the cross. And he suffers for 3 hours on the cross. So this blew my mind today, and this is again from Dr. Brant Petrie, that at 9 a.m. At 9 a.m. Jesus goes to the cross, right, and is nailed there. At 9 a.m. there was something happening in the temple at the same time. Yeah. Jeff, do you know what was happening at the temple? So in Exodus chapter 29, what was prescribed to be offered every day as a perpetual sacrifice instituted by the Lord was a lamb of sacrifice, had to be offered every day at 9 a.m. That's when the Jews would go to pray in the temple. So if you hear about like Peter and Paul going to pray in the temple area in Acts chapter 2, they were going at 9 a.m. An unblemished lamb had to be offered on the altar, as well as an offering of bread and wine. And the bread was usually baked into a little flat cake, and oil was splashed across it in the form of a cross. Does that sound familiar? A little unleavened wafer.
Yeah.
So at 9 a.m., as Jesus was nailed to the cross, bread and wine was being offered in the temple, instituted by the Lord God himself in Exodus 29, as well as a sacrificial offering of a lamb. When Jesus breathes his last on the cross, there's something happening at 3 p.m. That same sacrifice is offered at 3. At 3 p.m., a lamb is offered on the altar in atonement for sin, crying out for the Messiah to come, and bread and wine is offered.
Yeah.
What does Jesus do the night before he dies, the night he is betrayed? He tells us that bread and wine are going to become his body and his blood. This is my body, this is my blood, of the new and everlasting perpetual covenant that will not cease until I come back. My brothers and sisters, for those of you who are listening, who are wondering what the Catholics are all about, why do we do all of this? It is because when that temple is destroyed in 70 AD, it is the Lord's disciples, the apostles, that he created, our first bishops and our first priests, who would perpetuate an eternal, or I should say a perpetual sacrifice, offering an unbloody bread and wine that is the unblemished lamb. So when Jesus dies on the cross, all of these things are consummated. They are brought together and made as one.
Yeah.
And so when we go to Mass, we are fulfilling 9 a.m. in the temple, 3 p.m. in the temple. We're fulfilling Jesus being nailed on the cross. We're fulfilling his death on the cross. And we are also receiving Jesus in his glorified, although veiled body. We're receiving the end game as well.
Yeah.
That's the 12th station.
Yes.
You know?
And then traditionally, as I was speaking about, what they would do is you would push and pull yourself up to breathe, and then eventually, when they had enough, they would break your legs, so you couldn't push yourself up anymore, and you would suffocate. But at the end, they come to break Jesus's legs, and he's already died.
Yeah.
Right, fulfilling that idea that he was the unblemished lamb.
Yeah, not a bone was broken.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like, come on. These are not the things we talk about. But I wish, like, if you look, if this stuff, if your mind is being blown right now, find something from Dr. Brent Petrie. Yeah. He talks about this in such a beautiful way. And it's stuff that I didn't know about and I've been a Catholic my whole life until I studied in college. Mm-hmm. And it makes you look at this way of the cross, this death on the cross that we make these beautiful crucifixes to wear around our necks and hang in our hallways and our offices and our homes. It makes you look at it and go, oh, I know what that means.
Yeah. And I'm willing to wear this around my neck. Yeah. I'm willing to have this image in my home because I know that this crucifixion is for me.
Yeah.
And this crucifixion was because of me. And yet this crucifixion is not the end.
Yeah.
This does not signal the end. This signals the beginning of a new life.
Yeah.
By Christ shedding his blood, we are made new. You know, that's one of my favorite scenes probably in the entire Passion of the Christ, Mel Gibson's now classic, is whenever Jesus is bearing the cross and he meets his mother and he's kind of got that next little wind to keep going, is he quotes the book of Revelation, "Behold, I make all things new." And that's exactly what he does when he goes to the cross.
Yeah.
But we can't get to Easter Sunday before we get through Good Friday. And so the 13th station is a very famous one because it has been capitulated and recapitulated in art for so many, now thousands of years, and that is the Pietà. Jesus is taken down from the cross and he is placed in the arms of his mother. So two of Jesus' disciples take his body down from the cross. Joseph of Arimathea, if you remember, he goes to Pilate and asks if he can have Jesus' body, if it can be taken down. Pilate is surprised that he's dead already, so he says to Joseph, "We'll go and do that." So they take it down, and they put Jesus in the arms of his mother.
Yeah.
I mean, how any of you who have lost a child, no matter the age of your child, you never want to have to bury your child, but that's the agony that Mary is in the midst of. You know, she who said yes. She who knew of God's promises being fulfilled, and she who knew that God's promises were being fulfilled, still once again undergoes the agony of holding her son dead. And so almost always it's Mary that we think about in this moment.
And we brought this up a few years ago when Holy Thursday, when the Annunciation and Good Friday was on the same day, March 25th. But traditionally in the church, the church fathers believed that the Annunciation and the day that Jesus died, Good Friday, were the same day, March 25th, because they believed that his life, starting at his conception in Mary's womb by the Holy Spirit and ending with his death on the cross, was a complete cycle, right? So she really is kind of receiving a new nativity, right, to say it. And I mean, there is a new nativity happening on the cross, right? It's the birth of the church.
Right, the birth of the church and all of us, right, being reborn.
It has to happen through that agony, right? That final sword in her heart.
Yep. And so we see in that final sword in Mary's heart that's exactly where she holds her son, right? Yeah. She holds him close to her heart. And so we do, St. Alphonsus Liguori, Mary's sorrowful mother, pray to your son for me. Jesus, you have died because you love me. Help me to love you always. I love you, Jesus. I repent of my sins. Help me to never sin again, to love you always, and to do your will. That's that station where Mary kind of looks at us as she's looking at her son. And Mary doesn't look at us accusatorially.
No.
No.
She doesn't look at us and say, look what you did. She looks at us to say, and what of you?
Yeah.
What of you, my child? Because Mary is our mother. What of you, my child?
There's a beautiful image. It's actually two images by a man named William Adolphe Bouguereau. Thank you. He has two beautiful images of Mary and Jesus. Yep. One of them is called A Virgin of the Lilies, where Mary is depicted holding the child Jesus, and the other one is his Pietà, where Mary is holding.
And she's looking intently.
And if you Google them, some places will split the screen.
Oh yeah.
And so you have on one side this youthful image of Mary who's just contemplating motherhood with this bouncing baby boy, and the other where she's holding her son, and the look, I mean, it's just so beautiful. The weight that she herself literally holds and now carries from the cross, of not only her dead son, right, but of the church that she now has to mother, and the sorrow that comes with that as well.
That's right, exactly, because it does. You do begin to bear a cross as the church is born too, because you realize that each of her members must then also go through their own suffering, death, and resurrection. I mean, because that's what baptism is. Baptism is an entry into the life of Christ, but also his death and his resurrection. And then that brings us, of course, to the 14th station, which is Jesus is laid in the sepulcher. We don't get the sense that Jesus knew who Joseph of Arimathea was, because the scriptures tell us that Joseph was a secret member of the disciples. He was a man of some import, and so he had to kind of protect his station. But it was Joseph of Arimathea who provides the tomb for Jesus. And so Jesus is laid in a stranger's tomb. He came into the world with nothing, right? Born in a manger, and goes to a stranger's tomb.
Which I really love meditating on the fact that, like, when Jesus leaves his home in Nazareth and to begin his public ministry, that's the end of him. Really, I mean, when you think about it, he didn't really own anything living in his family home, but like he doesn't own anything. He's basically homeless, and even he's buried in a borrowed tomb. He has nothing to his name. So like the
he
kenosis,
created it all.
Yeah, like think about the second reading today from Philippians, like the kenosis, the emptying that happens when Jesus becomes takes on the human nature and becomes man. He's incarnated. It's complete, right? He takes nothing for himself.
No, right, yeah. He could have been incarnate fully 33 years old. He could have been incarnate with whatever clothing he desired. He could have been incarnate in whatever palace he desired.
Right.
And yet his palace was that of a feeding trough.
Yeah.
The only thing he carried with him really was the fact that he was born of the royal line of David, but even that wasn't his. It was given to him by Joseph, Joseph's line. And so, he comes into the world. I mean, it recalls that line from Job, "Naked I have come forth from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return." He is stripped of his garments. He is laid in a stranger's tomb. And that is enough.
Yeah.
That is enough for him to accomplish everything. And so are we willing to do the same? Are we willing to leave everything behind to follow the Lord? There are a number of disciples who did exactly that. There are a number of men of the church that do the same thing. There are a number of women in the church that do. And I dare say there are a number of families that husbands and wives who completely give themselves over to the practice of their faith, knowing full well that it's going to mean they're ostracized by the world around them, by other families. We hear it. Oh, you're Catholic. Oh, you have 12 kids. Well, and then the making fun starts. But giving yourself completely over to the Lord, and whatever that means, being open to life, being open to new life, being open to the surprises of God, that comes with a price tag. And the price tag oftentimes, if nothing else, is being ridiculed by the world. And remember, as I said in my homily today, the world is not your friend.
Yeah.
The world is not your friend. We must live in the world. We must interact in the world. The world is made for us, but a fallen world is not your friend. And so don't try to make friends with it. Don't try to make allowances for it. But Jesus being laid in a stranger's tomb, wrapped in a stranger's linens, is exactly how we are called to live our lives too. Also that we can be raised with him. If we have died with him, we shall also be raised with him, right? Yeah. And we also will reign with him if we hold out to the end. St. Paul says you can depend on that. And that's the truth. All right. I mean, we got a few seconds here, Jeff, but do you think, in your estimation, that we have time for that part of the show that we like to call
the CU Pick of the Week?
Well, apparently we do.
Yes.
So why don't we go to Olivia, because she's on a roll.
I'm being punished.
Well, no, it's only because used to this, and I can only do this way. Okay, so my pick of the week is Aquinas 101 by the Thomistic Institute, which in general, I love the Thomistic Institute's YouTube channel. They have very, very informative videos that break down incredibly intense, difficult topics into very bite-sized, understandable content.
Which I like, because Thomas can be tough.
Yes, and I use them in my classes, and my students love them and can understand Thomas Aquinas, thank God. But their Aquinas 101 series is great because they pair their content, their video content, with the texts of Aquinas, and so it makes it easier to understand the actual texts, right, which can be very challenging. So it's kind of like a study resource, but then there's also like other study resources as well. So they do a really good job of breaking down one of the most pivotal church fathers, but also one of the most difficult by some veritable geniuses. So highly recommend Aquinas 101 by the Thomistic Institute.
Kathleen.
Nice. I have discovered, you know me, I love a good Dr. Quinn episode. Stick with me here. I have all 42 discs of the series, including the 2 movies. Booyah. Okay. I have found a modern day version of this called Heartland. On Netflix. It is awesome. It is Canadian. It is wholesome.
Yes,
you should watch it. Heartland.
It's good.
Apparently, like they've been doing it for 20 years.
I was going to say, is it a 90s season?
Where have I been?
I mean, I know about it. I haven't watched it.
Thanks a lot. Nobody told me. It's fantastic.
All right, my pick of the week is quite possibly one of the classics, Romano Guardini's The Lord.
Oh,
if you want, this is a 1954 book, right? So if you want, before biblical scholarship and the historical critical method in the best sense of the word was a thing, this was written. So you have the spiritual, the historical, critical, the narrative, all the different modes of Scripture. Romano Guardini takes you through it on this meditation on Jesus Christ the Lord. So definitely one of my picks of the week. In fact, you can see that I've got several bookmarks here because usually when I'm working on homilies, this is what I'm going to be looking at because he's very good. In fact, right here, the entry into Jerusalem is one very much of those chapters that I didn't read today, but I might come back this evening. So if you want to learn about kind of the Lord's life through a spiritual lens, this is the way to do it. Romano Guardini's The Lord.
Written in the year of my birth.
Very good. Yeah. And with a foreword by Pope Benedict XVI. Who loved Guardini as well.
By the way, I gave up my walker for Lent. Okay,
good for you.
And that's a good thing to give up there, Jeff. But that doesn't mean you have to take it up again at Easter.
No, indeed.
As always, the Catholic Underground is made possible by viewers, by listeners, by prayer warriors, and by benefactors like you. You can become an official Undergrounder today, Jeff, by going to
CatholicUnderground.com/donate.
Yeah, that's correct. You can also help us out by letting other people know about us. So like us and heart us and star us, which apparently is a thing on Facebook now again, or whatever your platform of choice is. And if the podcasting service you use has a review option, Jeff,
leave a review. Say something nice, though.
That's right, yeah. And if you want to say something mean, make sure you email us because we like to read hate mail too. So,
sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we'll take that.
Our panelists this week have been Kathleen Lee at KLee626 on the Instagram. Thank you, Kathleen.
Anytime.
Olivia Gulino is the .real.omg on Instagram and Twitter. Thank you, Olivia.
Thank you.
Jeff Blackwell is our technical director. You can find him at Jeff Blackwell us on Twitter. Jeff, thank you.
It's a privilege, Father.
Also, Ed Ball is our video director. He's not available on any of the social media, and he's very thankful for that. Jim Hayes is our research assistant with his crew in the lab. And you know me, I'm Father Chris Decker. I'm at Digital Catholic on Instagram and Twitter. We'll be off for Easter in a couple of weeks. We probably will take those weeks off. But we'll be back in no time flat for more of the Catholic Underground, which you've been listening to. We're cutting through the noise so you can find that still small voice. We hope you have a good Holy Week, and we will see you next time.